problem of stability in Europe. We have in the center of Europe one country that is being invaded by another that is, by the way, the biggest country in the world in geographical terms, and trying even to change the borders. That, of course, can bring many, let's say, focus of instability to Europe, including other parts of Europe. Thirdly, we have an energy crisis, as you know, that was provoked by that invasion, and that is having an impact not only in our industry but in our households, including in inflation, so the cost of life for our common citizens. But there are other consequences that are deeper, because Russia is becoming closer and closer with China, so there is a risk of decoupling globally. With the competition going on between the United States and China, the risks of a global decoupling are increasing, which is, of course, also an issue for global trade, global investment, and even beyond trade and investment for global cooperation. We are now going to have the G20 summit some days from now, so I would like to see the different countries in the world, namely the most important economies, cooperating in spite of the differences. I'm now pro bono, I'm chairman of Gavi, the Global Alliance for Vaccines. So I've been working with countries all over the world to try to make vaccines reach the poorest countries in the world. The COVID-19 virus, does not need a visa to travel. So that's why the countries have to cooperate globally. And I'm concerned with the current level of cooperation or lack of cooperation when it comes to those global public goods. So this war of Russia against Ukraine is not just a European problem. It is certainly a European issue, but it has a huge dimension because of its escalation risks and also because of its ramifications geopolitically, but also geoeconomically.
Mr. Barroso, you talk about Europe's role in helping multinational companies prosper. Do you think we should have more of our multinational companies, especially in the tech sector?
Oh, yes, of course. Europe should do more in terms of science and technology. When I was in the European Commission some years ago, it was my commission who put forward the program known as Horizon 2020. It was for the budget 2014-2020. It was 80 billion euros. And afterwards, it was even reinforced with a new budget. That's a good contribution. But we need more. In Europe, we have a good science. There are great scientists in some of the best universities all over Europe. What we are doing not so well, as for instance our American partners, is the translation of fundamental research to the market. So from the laboratory to the market, the level of innovation is not the same kind has not reached the same levels of achievement that, for instance, in the United States they have done it. That we should do more. They have found in the United States some, let's say, ecosystems linking universities with business and with young entrepreneurs that have been more successful than ours. Having said that, we have huge resources in Europe in terms of science, and I believe that with the proper support from the public authorities at national level and at European level, we can do better. And I hope we will do. Because what's going on globally, in fact, to a large extent, is a competition for technology. We are speaking about geopolitics, we are speaking about war and peace, but basically, those who are going to win, those who are going to have the competitive advantage in the world, will most likely be those who are able to come with the advantage in technological terms. Sectors like artificial intelligence, that, by the way, have a great implication also for defense industry. Artificial intelligence, quantum computing, biosciences, biotechnology, gene editing. Some of these sectors are sectors that can define the future. Some of them with great promise, including, for instance, for medicine, for public health, I see a lot of developments going on, but I would like to see a more robust position of Europe on that field.
Talking about energy crisis, do you think a common borrowing by EU could help to address this crisis?
I mean, there is already some agreement on that, as you know, but it's a minimum situation. I'm not completely sure about what can be the perfect solution, to be frank. I'm not the real expert on those matters. I believe that it has to be done away. Intervention in the markets of energy are extremely delicate because sometimes they can have perverse effects. So, provided it's done with caution, with some prudence, yes, it's also better to be together, but it has to be done in a way that does not create undesired or unexpected effects. But as a rule, your question is okay. Of course, it's better for the European Union to negotiate with the big suppliers of gas, for instance, so to negotiate on behalf of the 27 countries, than if each country tries to outbid the other, offer more than the others, as it happened some time ago. So, by the way, the same applies, you remember, to the issue of vaccines. There was a decision taken by the European countries supporting the idea put forward by the Commission of having the Commission making that operation on behalf of the 27 countries. I think it was the right decision.
As well as any country in the world, Europe as well needs to face energy and climate challenges at the same time. What do you think could be the role of finance to manage all these matters?
Well, finance is already doing a lot, you know, the financial world, basically. Also probably because they are less dependent on energy, or let's say intensive energy, than, for instance, classic industry. In general terms, the financial institutions are open to a transition to a greener economy. And so that is something that they should do. And now they can also support the transition to the renewables, to decarbonization, and to some projects in that area. Certainly, some of this transition cost money. And so we need investment. And that cannot be done only by the states, because our budgets are under constraint, our public budgets. So we need to go to the markets to raise sufficient resources, sufficient capital for that transition, namely in technological terms. For instance, carbon capture. We need investment in that area. Hydrogen. We need investment in hydrogen, clean, green hydrogen. So this is why, certainly, the financial sector is part, or should be part, of the solution when it comes to sustainability.
So investments could be driven by green economy?
Yes, no, the green economy is already driving a lot of investments. But once again, we have to be realistic and honest. There will be still investment in other sources of energy, namely for the transition, including gas, as we have seen now. Precisely because of this crisis with Russia, because of the lack of gas to some of our countries, they had to find new sources of gas. So there was financing for that. So we are in a very peculiar and a very difficult situation to understand, because it's a transition situation. On one side, the war of Russia against Ukraine has shown how much we need to get rid of fossil fuels, that we should not be so much reliant on fossil fuels. And so, from that point of view, this war is making the decarbonization more urgent, more important, more clearly a priority. But on the other side, the costs, the immediate costs are very huge, because there is a lot of money that the countries are now spending to support the households. We are still living the results of the pandemic. So there was huge budgetary support in most of our countries, including Italy, but also in Europe, in the United States, in the UK. A lot of money that was spent to support other households, because economies were virtually stopped. There was a lockdown. So, and that makes the transition more difficult. So we are going through this period of transition that, by definition, will be very challenging.